Page 25, got those blues. Unit 3 of the book, we are moving on. Again, if you're confused or you're struggling or about what's going on, please go back and start the book again and review everything. Review all the lessons. Please don't be in a hurry to get through this. You need to remember and be able to do all that stuff I'm explaining. Okay, I'm just going to keep adding to it is the problem. Now, at the end of the previous unit, Unit 2? Yeah. Unit 2, they give you some sight reading things. I always do the sight reading. Practice sight reading a lot. Keep going back through the book and keep going through the sight reading stuff. But then they give you a little exercise, so they call it, on page 23, where you match up the chord with the name of the chord, or you pick which one, or somehow you're circling them or something. I'll leave that up to you. It's like the first one, you have bass clef, you have 2 chords shown, and then you have the letter A, and then you have treble clef with 2 chords shown. Well, you have to pick one of those bass clef chords, that is the A chord. One of them is, one of them isn't, and the same for the treble clef. So it's like in the first line, the A chord is the chord with A as the bottom note, which is the second one, this one. So that's the A chord, you'd circle that. And then for the treble clef, it's the chord with A for the bottom note. So you have a G here and you have this. Well, A is the bottom note, so it's the A, you'd circle that one. And you go down through and you find all these chords. You can have fun doing that. If you have any questions, you're welcome to ask. On page 24, they're introducing you to the primary chords in C major. Well, that's a mouthful. Break it down. C major, we're referring to the key of C major. C major, as you recall, has no sharps or flats. It's the white keys on the piano. Uses the C scale, the C major scale. Hopefully you've been doing my C major scale video on the beginner part, the 1 octave up and down. Don't go further than that right now. That really is a mistake. Just stick with the 1 octave, and then each day when you practice, you do that C major scale, time or two. You don't have to spend a lot of time on it, just do it. Because you're going to do it day after day after day. And that's the important thing, is the consistency of doing it day after day. Not the fact you got to spend an hour on it each day. No, you just spend a few minutes on it each day. But it's done day after day after day. That's important. Every key, remember keys? That's that collection of sharps and flats that go together to make the harmony. C major doesn't have any sharps or flats, which is why it's the white keys. Well, every key has 3 primary chords. And we're using triad chords for the most part, which is 3-note chords. And it is the 1, 4, and the 5, 7. Remember I told you each step of a scale is numbered, and the chord is built on that step. That's its number. So in key of C major, step 1 is the first one, because we don't start with 0 in music. We start with 1. So the chord built on that step is the 1 chord. 2 chord, 3 chord, we went through this before, okay. Well, the 1, 4, and the 5, 7 chords are the primary chords in any key. So in the key of C, the 1 chord is here because it's built. The 4 chord, 1, 2, 3, 4, is here. It's an F chord. Remember the bottom note? When it's in this arrangement, the bottom note identifies the chord. That's the 4 chord. And then the 5, 7 chord, well, first you got to get the 5 chord, which is here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, which is a G chord, or 5 chord in the key of C. And what we do is we add another note here. So it's got 4 notes. It's not a triad, it's 4 notes. And where does the 7th come in? Well, it's the distance between, remember intervals and the distance between notes? It's the distance between the bottom note and the top note. That is an interval of a 7th. And so it is called a 5, 7. 5, 7. Now in the way they're doing it, we're not using all 4 notes. You don't have to use every note in the chord. You need the top and bottom. You need these 2. But you can use this one or this one. You can use them both, but we usually don't. It's just one or the other. Now, when you're playing music, it gets a little cumbersome if you keep moving your head around. So in order not to have to move hand around, we simply rearrange the notes and the chords a little bit so the hand can stay put. So the 1 chord's okay as it is, but with the 4 chord here, what I'm going to do is take the C and put it on the bottom. And that way I'm just going from here to here. So that's a 1 chord, that's a 4 chord, and 1 chord. I can move my hand around. I had to move the thumb, but who cares? Thumbs don't mind. And the 5/7 chord, we don't want to go up here. We're not using the D, we're just using these. So what I'm actually going to do is I'm going to put the G on top. Let's go down here. Instead of here, I'm going to put the G on top. Because that's close to where I'm at. Then the little finger just goes down. So it's 5/7. So I got a 1, a 4, a 5/7, and a 1. And I didn't move my hand around much. You should do this in both hands. They will get around to it eventually, but why wait? Just do it in both hands. It doesn't matter where you are. Just here, do them together. They've written them out for you at the bottom of page 24, and they put in the Roman numerals. Remember, I told you that the chords, the number, they're identified by Roman numerals. We have a lot of numbers in music, so we got to figure out ways of keeping them straight. Good luck with that. But the Roman numerals under the staff, that's where they put the number of the chord if it's there. The name of the chord they put above the staff, that's what a guitar player or somebody would read. If they're going to play along with you, you can have guitar players play with you, or anybody who can read the chord names and improvise on those can play along. That can be fun. And got those blues, that comes in handy. So we're going to go over the primary chords. Those are the chords that are used the most. And every key we get into, we got to cover all that. But the theory or the idea of how you figure them out is exactly the same in any key. It doesn't matter what the key is. So you know about the 1 chord, and the 4 chord, and the 5/7 chord, and you can just do it. Now, let's get into blues. Blues is a style of music. You got classical and ragtime and jazz and blues and swing and rock and all that, the different kinds of music. Well, in blues, they have a thing known as a 12-bar blues pattern. A bar is the same as a measure. They're interchangeable. Sometimes you call them bars, sometimes you call them measures, depending on what country you're from. U.S., a lot of times we call them measures. I think in England they call them bars. It doesn't matter. It's the same difference. So the 12-bar blues pattern is the same as a 12-measure blues pattern. We just say bars. I use bars a lot because it's easier to say. They give the pattern at the top of page 25. You get 4 measures or 4 bars of a 1 chord. Remember the 1 chord? Then you get 2 measures of the 4 chord, and then 2 measures of the 1 measure of a 5/7, 1 measure of a 4 chord, and then 2 measures of a 1 chord, and that hopefully adds up to 12 measures total. But that's the pattern. So if you want to get into writing blues, you can follow that chord progression, follow that pattern, and you'll be fine. You want it longer than 12 bars? Just repeat it. Repeat the pattern. You don't have to repeat the notes that you're playing, but repeat the pattern of the chords that come through. So when we look at got those blues, let's just check and see if it's following that pattern. I'm going to use the chords in the left hand for that. Well, they got Roman numerals too. So you got a C chord at the first, and you got 4 measures of C chord, you count them across, and then a measure 5, you get a 4 chord, and we got 2 measures of 4 chord there. And then on measure 7, we get the 1 chord again. There's 2 measures of 1 chord. Then on measure 9, we get the 5/7 chord, or the G7 chord. And then 1 measure of 4 and 2 measures of C, or 1 chord. So this follows the 12-bar blues pattern. Okay. We've pretty much got the left hand, too, while we're at it. Let's look the piece over. Treble and bass clef, 4/4 time, no sharps or flats in the key signature. We're in the key of C major. Make sure you can do the C major scale. At least 1 octave up and down as I present it in the scale video. Not by tetrachords, but as I show it in my scale video for C major. We got, what, 1/8 notes and quarter notes and things. We can do that. Right hand, we've already covered the left hand. Let's do the right hand. You're in here, you got to bring thumb down. It's not a 5-finger position, you're here. That's all. And it's a 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and. That little asterisk there, I'll come back to that. Ignore that for now. Again, 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and. Isn't this fun? But just eighth notes. B flat there. Now, measure 5 you got here. If your hand is really big and your fingers are fat and they don't fit in here very well, you can use second finger there if you need to. However, if you're going to do that, then on the last note on the first line, when you're here, you need to use thumb on that so you can come over with second finger. But if your hands are small enough, use the fingering in the book here. Remember accidentals? That's good for the rest of the measure. And then back to here. And then measure 9. Just reach up with a little finger. We didn't move, we just reached up with a little finger. And then the 4 chord. And you're thinking a 4 chord, there's no E flat in a 4 chord. I don't want to get into it too deeply, but blues uses 7th chords pretty much all the time. And this makes it a 7th chord. I don't want to get into that. Just take my word for it. It is a 4 chord in C major for our purposes, but we're going to throw in the E flat because it sounds cool. Okay. Then you put the hands together. And that's pretty simple, straightforward, I hope. So go through this a few hundred times or whatever and make sure the beat is a steady beat. No hesitations anywhere. Then we can think about the articulation. These staccatos, there were short staccatos, and I'm flexing at the wrist. I'm on the key, I'm bum, bum, bum. Now this, that's not staccato, but the left hand is. Through and put in the articulation. Now I will mention that some people on this articulation, on like the first measure, the third beat, because the left hand is staccato, they'll play a staccato on the right hand too. I'll leave that up to you. It's not marked staccato, so I'm not going to play it as a staccato. I'm going to play it. I'm going to connect it. But you do it as you see fit. Or your teacher will tell you how to do it. Huh? Then the dynamics. It's loud at the first line, and that's the melody, which is the right hand. Keep these chords in the background. What do you think loud is? Forte? Keep these soft. At the end of the line, you get softer. Softer. Now you're soft. Soft. The left hand's got to be very soft then. At the end of the second line, you're going to go back up to loud. Start as soft. This is measure 8. So you gradually get softer as you go through it, and it's not done by note. Each note doesn't get a little louder or softer. It's done according to whatever the music needs. In this case, it'd be like each beat. So it's like soft, a little louder, a little louder, a little louder, loud. So I'm like doing it on each beat on that one. The same thing in the line above and getting softer. It's like each beat I'm getting a little softer. Sometimes, they can be spread out over a long time. It'd be a measure at a time. You'll change. And I'm confusing you. It'll be clear later on when we do it. There's a retardando at the end. You slow down. Okay. And you hang on to the last half note. If I do it with a metronome, I'll hang on to that half note at the end. With the fermata, I'll hang on to that with 4 counts instead of 2, so I can stay with the metronome. Speed, well, it's sort of slow. That's the feel of it. And that's where we need to play it in a blues style. That's where the asterisk comes in at the first measure. Jazz, swing, and blues, those three kinds of music, kind of similar in the way they're interpreted. We swing the eighth notes. If the composer or arranger wants them even, they need to put in a note, play evenly. Otherwise, you just automatically swing them. Swing them means to play them long, short. And the counting is long, short. It's not 1 and 2 and it's 1 and 2 and 3 and that's it. So it's 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1 and 2 and 3. That's it. This is the feel. It's a blues feel. There's no notation for it. It's not a dotted rhythm. It's not a triplet rhythm. It's kind of, you feel it, is all it is. Now when you get to the end, the last measure, and you slow down, when we slow down, then we even out the rhythm. Because it doesn't work real well to swing it when you're going real slow. It just doesn't work. It's too slow. So we just even it out there at the end. The last two measures. We just even it out at that point. You feel that too. I'd like to play it with you slowly to double check the notes and the rhythms. I'm not going to do any dynamics. We're just going to do both hands about the same, but sort of a medium loud all the way through. So I'll give us 4 counts. Let's try it. 1, 2, and ready, and go. And 1, and 2, and 3, and 4, and 2, and... hold, 2, off.